Good evening, good evening, everyone. Would you please join us in a salute to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening and welcome to the March 21st meeting of the Maplewood Township Committee. Should be exciting in a couple of minutes when we do the trophies. Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231, Public Laws 1975, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for 2017 to the News Record and Star Ledger in December 2016, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Mr. Adams? Here. Mrs. Larrier? Here. Mr. Lambert?
Here.
Mr. McGehee?
Here.
Mayor DeLuca?
Here.
Whereas Chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires that all meetings of public bodies be open to the public, and whereas Section 7 provides that the governing body has the discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public at any meeting, whereas it desires this governing body to comply with the provision of this act, same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner, now therefore be it resolved by the Township Committee, the Township of Maplewood does hereby prohibit, except as set forth in the formal agenda, active participation in the deliberations of the governing body by the public, except as otherwise prescribed by law, does limit the public to the observation of the actions and discussion of the governing body at all of its regular and special meetings.
We need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Adams? Yes. Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Lambert?
Yes.
Mr. McGehee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. Thank you. Good evening again and welcome to our meeting. We are going to start off with a short introduction that I'm going to give. Then after that, we have a special recognition of some trophies. Anybody here for a trophy? Okay, just want to make sure. Then we'll have a proclamation. Mrs. Larrier, as our Board of Health President, will read the proclamation on National Poison Prevention Week. Then we have the first public comment period. Anyone who would like to speak on any item that's on the agenda, you can please come up here. We'll give you 3 minutes, and I will remind you and urge you to come up at that time. We then will move into our process of the budget. I'll do a statement as the chair of the Finance Committee. We'll do a resolution to read the budget by title. We'll introduce the budget. Then we will introduce the budget for the Maplewood Village Alliance Special Improvement District. We will introduce the budget for the Springfield Avenue Special Improvement District. After that, we'll deal with 2 ordinances that are on final reading. The first is to modify the no turn on red restriction on Baker Street and Valley. And the second is an amendment to the registration of rental properties. In both of those instances, because they're on final reading, we will ask if anyone wants to speak on those 2 items at the time. So if you want to speak about either of those items, we'll ask you to come up at that time to speak either about the Valley Street, Baker, no turn on red, or the rental property ordinance. Then we have a slew of new ordinances. The first is to regulate the temporary trailers called pods. Second is to change the fees at the pool. Third is setting the 2017 sewer fee. 4, we'll be introducing parking regulations for a new parking lot on Springfield Avenue, parking lot number 11. Then we have the ordinance on gas-powered leaf blowers, and there's a additional ordinance dealing with regulations of lawn maintenance businesses. We'll have those 2 ordinances. Then we have an ordinance on adopting and amending redevelopment plans for redevelopment area 2. And then we have a capital budget ordinance. And finally, we have an ordinance to exceed the budget cap. So we have a bunch of those. Those are all, most of those are going to be on final, which are fairly quickly. We'll go through those. We have 2 discussion items, pricing changes at the Woodland and Bergdorf, and community experiences and perceptions regarding police and race-related issues. Then we have our consent agenda, which has 13 items. We'll be establishing rates for off-duty police officers. We'll pass a resolution confirming the appointments to boards and committees by the Township Committee. Resolution about installation of a mid-block crosswalk on Boyden. A proposal of pedestrian safety for Prospect Street. We're approving that. An engineering study for Baker and Maplewood Avenue, and then we have a number of other resolutions canceling appropriations from prior years, authorizing our uncollected tax reserve, approving our bills and claims, and then contracts for the wading pool, for the Memorial Library electrical, and then also designating a developer for the redevelopment area 2 and approval of open and closed minutes from March 7th. We have our second public comment period, and then we'll have administrative reports and reports from elected officials, and then we will adjourn. But all of you here tonight for your trophies, you don't have to stay for the whole meeting. As soon as you get your trophies, you can get out of here. Right? You can stay if you want, but you might have better things to do. Before we get started, I want to make a couple of announcements. One, we have finalized a contribution of $145,000 that is going to be made by Elite Properties to renovate the community center at Dehart Park. This is part of the redevelopment agreement that we established with them some years ago. They will perform $145,000 of renovation there. We will get new bathrooms inside and out. We'll get a new kitchen, floors, painting, and we'll get a new entrance door there and some other things. In addition, we'll have the roof repaired. So we'll be getting a lot of improvements out of that agreement we have with Elite Properties. And that will take place over the next couple of months. So anyone wanting to use the community center there, call us up, and we have some other buildings that folks will be able to utilize. Second, I just want to announce, in concert with our commitment of improving pedestrian safety, we had a meeting with Essex County on Friday, and we were privileged to have our county executive there, and I want to thank our liaison to Essex County, Jeanette Page Hawkins, who's here, for helping us to facilitate that meeting and make it happen. We negotiated some agreements with the county at that meeting, and I'll just go through them because they're pretty exciting for us. First, in this year, we're going to get some patching on Valley Street where we have some severe potholes, and then also New Jersey American Water is going to replace the asphalt all the way from Milburn Avenue, roughly even past here, this building, with a trench that they dug. So that'll all be repaired, and the county will be working with them to make that happen. But more importantly, what's going to happen next year, the county is going out for a grant, and we are going to get a full traffic light at the corner of Valley and Pearson. And we are going to get the entire length of Valley Street paved from the Milburn Avenue to the South Orange border. So that'll be a complete mill and pave of the entire roadway. At that time, when we do the paving, we will work with the county to revise the turning radiuses at Tuscan and Valley, and Baker and Valley, both of which we believe will improve pedestrian safety at those two intersections. So this is going to be a major effort. The county executive was very helpful in instructing his engineers to put this on the front burner. So they are going to be working on designing this. They have 32 intersections. He said make this the first one. So hopefully, as soon as we can get this going, but they pretty much said that this is going to happen, the design this year and the installation next year. So and the paving of the entire roadway. So this is a real plus. So it's very, very good. I want just to mention, I went over it briefly. One of the resolutions on the consent agenda is to go for a planning grant, or planning assistance rather, from New Jersey Department of Transportation to do some planning on Prospect Street. It's an area that we get a lot of complaints about speed and pedestrian safety. So we're making an application to the state to get some help. So that will go also a long way in our effort to improve pedestrian safety in town. So these are some really big steps for us. I know we're all committed to making pedestrian safety a priority this year, and these are all the steps that we're taking, and I think they're good ones and going to move us forward. So enough talking. Let's have some fun. Where's Coach Eddie? I saw him come in. Come on up here. Let's meet. The Township Committee is going to come down there. And Coach, if you meet me at the podium here. So we are very fortunate here tonight to have 3 basketball teams that are undefeated. How about that? And Coach Eddie here is head of our basketball operations, and he's been very helpful in bringing a lot of the basketball services and programs to our children here in town. So we're grateful for his dedication and how he has expanded this program. Coach, you want to say a few words? Come on. Let's give Coach a round of applause.
Hello. No, I just want to thank the members of the committee and the administration who allow us to run our programs and offer everything to the kids, and the kids who continuously come and show up and work hard.
Okay. Thank you, Coach. So where's Coach Greg and Coach Marcellus? Come on up. This is the 5th grade boys, undefeated. And Coach, I'm going to ask you if you would call up your players one by one, and you guys can come down the middle here and stand here. We'll shake your hands. We'll give you the trophy. How's that sound?
First player, my captain, Adler. John. Diego. Luke. Tyler. Noah. Jalen. And last but not least, my grandson, Samaj.
We have early 5th grade. 5th grade boys championship 2017. Big shout out.
I guess so.
saw Coach Lenny here somewhere. Come on, Coach Lenny and Coach Eddie. 7th grade boys. You want to call them up? Len, can you call them up? All right, you call them up.
Dylan Lambert. Dylan, let's go. Reggie Cosmos. Salimi Quintent. Andrew Rowley. Justin Laguerre. Luke Nomura. Charlie Hurley. Dominic. Come on up. Sam Nomura. And Jalen Robinson.
Perfectly. 7th grade boys, champion 2017.
And we have the 5th grade girls, Coach Aaron and Coach Mihaya. Not yet. Okay, you want to call the girls up?
Okay, we got Madison Stevens, Addison Secor, Mackenzie Williamson, Skylar Gilliam, Sam Stein, Stella Marble, Jamie Levy, Avie Campbell, and Lily Westo.
Yeah, we're going to give all the ball players a couple minutes if you want to leave. This will be a good time. And their parents. You can stick around, but we won't feel bad if you leave.
How long do we stay?
Oh, yeah, you can. That's how it is. Yeah.
It's the feed from here to Verizon on channel 424. It's a bad feed.
Myself and Nurse on YouTube,
Oh, I don't know that. I don't.
not when you're, no. Don't write that down, Sonia. All right, what's next?
Yes. Okay, we're going to start back up. We have a proclamation for National Poison Prevention Week.
Good evening. I'm going to do that right from here.
Can't hear you.
Oh. Okay, maybe I won't do it right from here.
Just pull it up. Yeah, we can hear you when you're well into it. Yeah.
All right. Wow. A lot of people are gone. So this is a proclamation for poison prevention. Whereas Congress designated the third full week in March to be National Poison Prevention Week in 1961, and since then, this week has helped to raise national awareness of the dangers of potentially poisonous medicines, household chemicals, and other substances. And whereas poison centers across the country will focus the public's attention on identifying poisoning hazards at home, as well as learning ways to prevent poisoning emergencies. And whereas unintentional poisoning is the leading cause of unintentional injury and death in New Jersey, and drug overdose deaths, including prescription pain medicine and heroin, remain at epidemic proportions for New Jersey and the United States. Whereas a poison is defined as anything that is taken in the wrong amount, or in the wrong way, or by the wrong person, every poisoning is preventable. From the youngest to the oldest, all people and even pets are at risk. And whereas although the majority of reported poison exposures involve children 5 years and older, and 5 years old and younger, the majority of poisoning deaths occur in adults aged 20 to 59. Whereas the New Jersey Poison Information and Education System and a division of the Department of Emergency Medicine of the New Jersey School of Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey, provides expert advice, drug information, and poison prevention education to New Jersey residents through 800-222-1222. I'm going to ask all of my colleagues to repeat that number because it's very important. 800
800
222
2222
1222.
1222.
That's the poison prevention number. Should you have a poisoning, you can call that number right away. Now, therefore, I, Victor DeLuca, well, I'm not Victor DeLuca, Mayor of the Township of Maplewood, does hereby proclaim the week of March 20th through 25th, 2017 as National Poison Prevention Week in New Jersey, and encourages all citizens to pledge their commitment to ensuring the safety of themselves, their families, and their communities. What's that number?
800-222-1222.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, teacher.
And thank you for the test. Okay, we're now public comment. If there's anyone who would like to address the Township Committee. So if you want to talk about leaf blowers, now is the time to do that. You have up to 3 minutes. If you want to talk about any of the other items on introduction, that would be the time. If you want to talk about the Baker Street turn or the rental properties, that will be later. But any other item that you might want to speak about, now would be the time, and you have 3 minutes. Go ahead. Yes.
Good evening, I'm Linda Crowshar, 42 Woodland Road. And just reviewing what I know about the proposed leaf blower ordinance, there is one question that is open to me, perhaps to others. And that is, if I, as a resident of Maplewood, own my own leaf blower, a residential leaf blower that I purchased, let's say, from Home Depot, is there anything in the ordinance that would prohibit the use or the operation of that equipment by some third party, such as a landscaper, somebody down the street, whoever? And that's unclear to me, and so I asked that question of the committee this evening.
Do you want to answer this a legal question?
President go throughout the neighborhood.
It's in there.
The first,
The verb is use.
Right.
So the answer is yes, it's prohibited.
Yes, that a third party on my behalf may use the equipment, or
If
use
the-
that I, as a resident, may only use that
If the
equipment?
third party is a commercial entity as defined in the ordinance, its use is prohibited.
It doesn't matter who owns the leaf blower.
It's the
It's the
use.
fact that they're doing it for a commercial purpose.
If your neighbor borrows your leaf blower and he's a resident or she is a resident of Maplewood, it is not banned.
So I'm sorry, am I understanding that this is not permitted if my leaf blower is used by my landscaper? It is or it is not permitted?
It is not permitted.
Not permitted.
Okay, well, I'm a senior citizen. I have a back issue.
You
There are, excuse me,
go ahead, you want to address that?
there are many senior citizens in the Township of Maplewood. There are many citizens who are taxpayers, longtime residents, and maybe disabled, who can't use their own equipment for their own property. So can you explain to me how the needs of people like this, like myself, like other neighbors, are overlooked in this particular situation?
Your landscaper can use other means if you require the grass to be picked up. If you have a relative come in, as long as it's not a commercial operation, you can have a relative come in and do the blowing. But the commercial landscaper, commercial entity cannot do the blowing using your leaf blower.
From May 15th to September 30th.
Well, let me be clear. This is my own leaf blower. It is a residential, it is not the high-powered commercial blower. So what prohibits me from just paying somebody else to do what I, as a 66-year-old woman, can't do with this thing on my back?
Is it a gas blower or an electric blower?
Yes.
I guess
Yeah,
I'm
then
confused
it's-
as why someone you would hire would not have their own equipment.
Oh, they would, but it's prohibited because they have higher decibel, higher powered equipment.
Right.
I'm talking about a baby blower that I get from Home Depot that I can't carry on my own back.
So well, the answer is, if you're going to go buy this, buy an electric blower, and then your landscaper can use an electric blower,
The kind with the big cord that they
Yes.
hang around, well,
Or battery powered.
or battery powered.
There are several battery powered on the market that are very good. I have a battery powered lawnmower, for example.
This is very, it's ironic to me. I feel like our community has bent over backwards in recent months to be this caring, compassionate community for anybody who is here, anybody who comes here. And we have this situation with certain folks who have their own inability to use their own equipment. And it's just hard for me to understand why there isn't some understanding of that in terms of this really very small issue with baby blowers that I could use myself. So maybe you could explain that to me.
Well, this is a time really for you to respond. We've had, we're at the point now, we've had a lot of meetings. If you'd like to give us input, whether you think we should pass this or not, that's where we're at. We've been talking about this, and we feel that most of us feel that it's in the best interest of the community not to allow gas-powered leaf blowers by commercial entities from May 15th to September 30th. And the situations, the scenarios that you're putting out there, there are ways in which you can get, if you want to go get an electric blower and have your landscaper use it, they're allowed to use an electric blower, they're allowed to use a battery blower, just not a gas blower.
Breaking a broom.
Right.
Well, I respectfully request that this very limited aspect of your proposal be considered, reconsidered, shall I say, because certainly if I could use this on my back as a limited baby blower, there's no reason in my own mind that somebody else, some third party, no matter who that is, should be able to do the same thing on my behalf.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to address the Township Committee? Anyone else want to address the Township Committee on leaf blow? If anybody wants to talk about leaf blowers, now's the time. Okay. Mr. Farrell, did you want to speak to us? No? Okay. I thought you wanted to speak to us because you're here. Okay. Okay. And Ms. Hawkins, you have nothing for us, right, today? Okay, thank you. Okay. We'll move forward. We're going to move into the budget process. And, comfortable. We are going to start with the statement, as we get our auditor and our finance officer up here. We're going to start with the statement by the finance chair, which is me, and just give you an overview. I want to tell you that we've worked, as the town, has worked very hard on this issue of the budget. I want to thank the finance committee. I want to thank all the department heads, the administration, for the months of planning. This starts back in December or even before. And then, of course, we have our meetings in January and February with the department heads. And we've had hours of meetings. And we want to thank everybody for taking this seriously. It is a very serious action by the Township Committee every year to craft the budget. Tonight, we're introducing a budget of $43.6 million. It's a little bit over 4% over last year, 2016. The main drivers of our budget this year, the increased pension payments, note payments for debt, and reserve for uncollected taxes. Most of the other increases are flat. We hold the what's called other expenses. These are other than salaries. We hold them as flat as possible. The salary increases are pretty much based on the bargaining unit increases that we've negotiated with our unions. The amount to be raised by property tax this year is $29.7 million. The average home last year paid municipal taxes $3,750. In 2017, the average home will pay $3,825. It's an increase of $75. We've worked very hard to get this budget down. I might say that in a revaluation year, it's a little hard to figure out your tax from one year to the next because values are going up and down around town, and your individual property may go higher or lower depending on your new assessment and the tax rate. But we can tell you that the tax rate, on average, for the homes across is only going up by 2%. I did want to say one other thing that we're always cognizant, and that is the sustainability of our finances. The last meeting, I read a statement by Moody's of how our financial condition is in good shape. They talked about our steady operation, our steady management of finances. But I did want to point out that this year, our increase in expenses, just natural occurring expenses, this is more money for gas and oil for our vehicles, salary increases, a couple other expenses that we had to do here and there. We went up about $1 million in expenses. And if we use the 2% figure of our previous year's tax levy, we can only raise the taxes by about $600,000. So we go up $1 million in expenses, and our revenue is only going up about $600,000. So there's that gap there, which we have to fill by using some reserve, going in and canceling unallocated money, unspent money from prior years. And that's what we try to do. We try to find money so that we don't have to raise taxes. But at some point, that well is going to dry up. And we've got to be careful here that we don't create an imbalance. One disappointment this year is we thought we were going to get some revenue from the Avalon Bay development. Now that with the fire that occurred a couple months ago, that put that off. So that is one pot of money we'll get next year. There are a couple other developments we'll get money next year. But it's a little bit disappointing that we weren't able to appreciate some revenue from that this year. But did want to just caution us as we go forward is that structural imbalance is something that we're going to have to deal with. And nobody wants to get to a situation like we were in 2009 when we had to put the brakes on everything and reduce a number of employees, and it was a really bad situation. So we will continue to look at this at the Finance Committee over the next year. This also means our effort to look at fees, keeping fees up to date is very important so that user fees are paying what the cost is to utilize that service. So that's the statement. Next up is a resolution 56-17.
Mayor, by title, authorize reading the budget by title pursuant to NJSA 48-4-1, expect the local budget law.
Can we get a motion?
So moved. I move that we pass resolution number 56-17.
There a second? I'll second it. Let's call the roll.
Mrs. Adams?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. We have the next resolution, 57-17.
Mayor, it's the introduction of the municipal budget for 2017.
Oh, I have to find my little cheat sheet. Hold on. I'm not used to doing this. I move this resolution. That wasn't that hard.
Second.
The move in second. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Adams?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. So do you want to read this about the hearing, Ms. Fritzen?
Yes, please. A hearing on the budget and tax resolution will be held at the municipal building on April 18, 2017 at 7:30 p.m., at which time and place discussions relating to the budget and tax resolution for the year 2017 may be presented by taxpayers or other interested persons.
Okay, so our budget will be heard, we'll have a public hearing at the next meeting on, I'm sorry, 2 meetings a month from now, on April 18th. And if you'd like to get information about the budget, we'll have that printed in the clerk's office.
Yes,
And at the library also, we have them there too at the 2
both
branches.
libraries.
And on our website. You can get the budget on our website. If you really would like to help sleep at night, you can grab it. It's wonderful reading. Do you have anything you'd like to say, either from our finance office or our accounting firm? Careful going forward. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Next up, we have the Special Improvement District for Maplewood Village. Ms. Fitson, you want to read the title?
Yes, Mayor. It's proposed budget for the Maplewood Village Alliance Special Improvement District for 2017.
You get a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second. For the hearing to be held on May 2nd, please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Ms. Larier?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. And Ms. Fritzen, this budget gets mailed to all the property owners in Maplewood Village, is that correct?
That's correct, Mayor. Also, there's copies here for anyone that's present at the meeting tonight that would like a copy. But again, every SID property owner will receive a copy of the budget along with the hearing date information.
Great.
Additionally, it's published in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
Terrific. And these are on our website also, Mr. Manning?
They are not, but they will be tomorrow.
Okay, so these will also be on our website. Thank you. And we have another Springfield Avenue Partnership Special Improvement District.
Proposed budget for the Springfield Avenue Partnership Special Improvement District for 2017.
Can we get a motion for this? Is there a second?
Second.
Can we have a motion and a second? Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams? Yes. Mrs. Larier?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, and we have a hearing here to be held on May 2nd. Same deal, you're going to mail this to all the...
Additionally, the budget and the information on the hearing date of May 2nd will be mailed to every SID property owner. And again, we have publication requirements. It'll be in the Maplewood South Orange News Record. And we have budgets available here for anyone present in the public that would like a copy.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, next up is item number 13, an ordinance on final passage.
Yes, Mayor, ordinance number 2848-17 is an ordinance to modify the no turn on red on Baker Street at its intersection with Valley Street. This ordinance will modify the restriction of no turn on red on Baker Street at Valley Street by limiting the restriction from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building. I'm sorry. Yes, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this ordinance which modifies the no turn on red at the corner of Baker Street and Valley Street? No, you have the hearing first.
I didn't go through any red lights to get here.
It's in better shape than we are now.
Yeah.
No, it's not very impressive. I literally ran here. Excuse me. I have a letter that I'd like to submit. I've got
Name and address.
copies.
Name and address.
Sorry about that, Dave Herman. I'm 6 South Crescent. Many of you know me. I actually live on the corner of Valley and Baker. Give you the letter.
You can give the letter. Is it?
I'll take it.
Thank you.
The letter is signed by approximately 25 people in my neighborhood. There's since been 5 people who signed. We only started circulating this letter about 2 hours ago when I learned of this issue. It's my fault the issue was not on my radar. In addition to the names on this letter, Tina Kelly, Alana Bryant, Chuck Gray, David Kelly, Claire Wilkinson, Jill Picard, and Cindy Thompson all agree with this letter and would like to sign it and voice our opposition to this proposed rule. The intersection of Valley and Baker and the intersections within 100 feet either way are extremely dangerous. We walk our kids through that intersection every day. The intersection you're talking about, it's between Tuscan and the middle school. It's a thoroughfare for kids, little kids, middle school kids who, for better or worse, not necessarily obeying the traffic and trying to run across the street where they shouldn't. I realize there's not a crosswalk right between on the side of the street we're talking about. But if you make the turn there, you're immediately upon the crosswalk. It's 30, 40, 50 feet away. In my neighborhood, we feel like we're playing Frogger every time we cross the street. And I'm not saying that in a funny way. It's dangerous. And if anything, we should be looking for ways to slow cars down, not let them speed up. Again, I brought this issue, I learned about it, I brought it to our neighborhood Facebook page. The reaction to it was unanimous. Everybody was shocked that this is even a suggestion. There's language that I won't repeat here about what they think about it. And to me, from what I've been told, the only rationale for it is because people don't want to wait at the light. Which to me, if you weigh that against safety of kids, of drivers, I'm not exactly sure what the issue is. I understand nobody likes to wait in traffic. I don't. Nobody likes to wait at a light. But like most lights, you wait. That's what you do. And to impose what I don't think is much of a burden on people to have them wait, whether it's one cycle or two cycles or three cycles at a red light, to ensure that kids and adults, and sometimes adults with small kids, trying to corral a 4 or 5 year old while pushing a stroller, to ensure that they have time to cross the street while cars are stopped at a red light and have to stay stopped and not go through that light and immediately get upon the crosswalk. Frankly, I'm not really sure why this is an issue, but I'm sure there's another side to it. But I'm here representing the people who live in that area, who cross that street every day, multiple times a day, with our kids. And that's our position. I'm happy to discuss it if anybody has questions about my position or our neighborhood's position.
I do.
Yes.
This is allowing right turn on red after traffic study by the engineer who felt comfortable permitting it because of the lack of pedestrian activity from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m.
Yes.
Is this honestly a time of
Yes.
day
So the
that you
reason,
feel like there are so many pedestrians at that intersection? And mind you,
Yeah.
that this was only a few years ago that the no turn on red was put there at all, and for a couple of decades, it was always a right turn on red.
well, and so I'm old enough to remember where nobody could turn on red, right? So
Well,
about,
me too, but
Right,
I'm just
so-
talking about, so for the
and
last
we
20
did
years.
okay then, but.
So I'm just trying to clarify.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So you're saying that there's tons of kids going through this intersection between 8 p.m. and
Does it-
6 a.m.?
So with all due respect, I don't think it has to be tons. So the reason,
I'm
the
sorry.
reason I ran here is because my wife just came back from Tuscan with my daughter. They were at the Tuscan show rehearsal. There are lots of events at the middle school and Tuscan that go on after hours. So they came home, I don't know what time it is, but clearly after 8, they crossed that intersection. And if you're outside, if you've had experience crossing Valley, it's dark, it's not well lit. You know, everybody's in a hurry. I think the whole reason we're here is because people are in a hurry. I don't think that's what this rule is all about, because people are in a hurry and don't want to
Not
wait.
entirely that. I mean, there's something to be said for idling cars, like, lined up at midnight when there's no traffic on Valley Street.
Well-
That's wasteful in a lot of environmental ways.
Sure, well, respectfully, I'd ask, has there been a study, how many cars are actually lined up at midnight? My guess is not many.
No, not many. How many
So-
pedestrians are there?
So do you have anything else you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, actually, I'm glad this issue is on the table. I mean, if there are people who don't agree with me, they didn't speak up, and we've got about 50, 60 people on our Facebook group, and have not everybody waiting, and not everybody in the neighborhood is on Facebook. We've got some older folks in the neighborhood who just don't use it. So we clearly want the committee to vote no on the issue. But we're glad this issue came up because this is a safety issue that the committee should focus on. We actually think, and we don't think, we don't know the answer to this, but I understand, Greg talked to the police department and they didn't find accidents, but I can tell you personally, I've seen 3 accidents on Valley and Crescent within the last few months, all on night. It's an extremely dangerous area. And we feel like every time we're walking across the street, we're really, it's like playing Frogger. We're taking our lives in our own hands, whether we, even when we have the light, just because it's not well lit. In addition to that, you have lots of people coming from the train who don't go to the crosswalk. They just try to cut and run across the street. Not defending that, but that's what people do. You have lots of middle school kids who are coming, from the middle school and going across the street. And part of the issue is, there's no sidewalk on Valley on the other side of the street. So people can't just stay on that side. They have to at some point make a decision and cross the street. So I can tell you from people in my neighborhood, we've been talking about this for a long time. And we think we should be looking at ways to slow people down there to make that area safer. I understand it's a county road, so you're limited in what you can do. So I don't exactly know what you could do, but I think, whatever it is, whether it's stop signs, increased crossing guards, speed bumps, which I've heard you can't do, anything with the speed limit, anything you could do, increased lighting would help. But we want people to slow down. We don't want to give people literally, give them the green light to stop and then quickly go on their way because, they're in a rush to get home.
Mr. Herman, I want to say thank you for coming this evening. As you know, I voted no on this, and I'm going to vote no tonight as well, and I hope 2 of my colleagues will join me. I do think that we've made some progress in terms of what we're trying to do in Valley. The mayor announced something earlier this evening, but I still think there's work that needs to be done. And I would like us to table this ordinance until we move forward with that work, and then we can kind of solidify everything all at once. I do agree with you, having a daughter who was at Tuscan and now Maplewood Middle, that it is an issue for children, regardless of the hours communicated. And I think it's also an issue for our commuters who come late at night from work or also early in the morning. And just walking that crosswalk myself, it's quite lengthy. And when a person is waiting to make that right turn, regardless of hours, he or she may not be looking in all directions, and it does put our pedestrians at risk. So I appreciate you, Mr. Herman, and I will be voting no tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you is there anything else?
Yeah, no, I would just like to say, I hope the committee gives due deference to the people who actually live there.
Okay.
And I understand people who are driving through there have their own issues, but the people who are actually living there, who actually walk across the street with their kids every day, I just hope you give that the deference that I think it deserves.
Okay, thank you
very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on this particular ordinance? Okay, we'll close the public hearing, and wait. If you want to say anything, you got to come back up here. And I'm going to let you do it, but you have to say your name and your address again for the record.
I appreciate that, and I know probably rules of decorum that I just violated. But again, David Herman from 6 South Crescent. I want to say for the record, there is not one member of the public who has spoken out in support of this at this hearing. So I just want to get that on the record.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Okay, we need a motion. I'm sorry, we're going to close the public hearing. Anyone else? We'll close the public hearing.
I have a point of clarification. Mr. McGee, mentioned a motion to table. In the time I've been on the Township Committee, I don't recall that being made, but is that something that can be made? Yes. I'm not familiar enough with the protocol.
We follow Robert's rules. You can table it. Typically, when there are questions, we vote it down and resurrect it again.
Okay.
Because by the time you have to track it, and then you have to bring it back, and you might amend it anyway. So the best thing to do, if we're not in favor of this, is to vote it down, And rather than table it, just knock it down, and then if you want to resurrect it, bring it back.
So if it's voted down tonight, there's no prejudice against it being brought back?
Nope.
But it would have to be first reading and second reading again?
Right, it would have to be at least 3 members of the Township Committee that would instruct Mr. Desiderio to draft it and put it here.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Adams, you want to make the motion?
Yeah, Mayor, I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk, introduction. I move this ordinance be on first reading and.
No, it's on final. You were
Oh,
right
it's
first
final.
time.
That's right. Okay, sorry, brain malfunction. I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed, publish the same as a passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
I'll second it. Okay, discussion. You want to move the motion, Ms. Adams, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, Mayor, contrary to Erwin's comments about the public they may not be here tonight, but I have heard from members of the public ever since the no turn on red was installed, that it was a waste, it caused problems. On the Engineering and Public Works Committee that I chair, we've talked about it several times. The engineer did his due diligence in studying and in his expertise found that the pedestrian activity at this intersection did not warrant a no turn on red through the hours. When you were speaking before, every comment you made about Crossing Valley seemed to indicate, in my mind, while you were describing things, the crosswalk on the north side, not the, there isn't one on the south side. So on the north side, crossing Valley Street, not crossing Baker. The no turn on red is, while I believe was a response to a near miss accident several years ago, and it was installed. So obviously, there's no desire for our engineer to put his license at risk in saying it should be permitted 24/7. He recommends it not even to be allowed to turn right on red during the day on weekends. So I think perhaps this may be something that, if it does not pass tonight, would be more acceptable to those in opposition right now. If it were after physical improvements to that intersection, which I've been pushing for at engineering, take place. I think it's over the top that we're worrying about children crossing this intersection at midnight. If that's the case, then there's bigger problems than crossing the street. They should be at home or
No, you can't do it.
My point is, not trying, I'm reacting just like you were reacting. So, it's all fair, all good. We can still like each other and disagree. It's okay. So anyway, I think this is warranted for the environmental and just common sense reasons that right on red at this intersection, the off hours is not, in my opinion, and in the engineer's opinion, a danger to pedestrians. So that's my comment.
Ms. Larrier.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With all respect, I will say that I did vote on introduction, and I did vote for this on introduction. And actually, I will say that I kind of voted against my own better judgment. With all due respect to our engineer and my colleague, I think Maplewood, it goes without saying that Maplewood is a green town. We care about the environment. I'm not convinced that in that one intersection without right on red will hamper the environment that much. I think in this case, safety trumps the environment, I have to say, on further consideration. I don't believe that the turn on red is actually consistent with what we've been saying as being our efforts in pedestrian safety. I think at that intersection, we, in fact, a month ago, had a conversation about another intersection where we were saying pedestrians should actually come up to this intersection to be safe. So now we're driving pedestrians to an intersection and we're going to make the intersection less safe than it is now. In light of the improvements that the mayor just discussed this at the first part of the meeting, I agree with Mr. McGee that we should certainly not do this in advance of those improvements. Anything we should do with this intersection should be wrapped up in that. I am persuaded by the fact that I have a letter here with residents in that area. I am persuaded. We have made roads one way because residents felt it was better. So I would certainly want to listen to these residents as well. Also, as I said, when we first discussed this, at 8 o'clock in the summertime, it's light. And if you are someone who is older than 15, you could actually be out at 8 o'clock or 8:30 crossing that intersection. The library is open until 9 o'clock on some nights. The middle school, while I'm not always familiar with the middle school's programming, Mr. Herman has said that the middle school has programming that happens after 8 o'clock. And we are a walking town. Ms. Adams, you push the idea of walking around town. And I agree with you. More people should walk. I believe we should make it as safe as possible for those people. So I will be voting against this tonight.
Anybody else?
Mr. McGee, do you want to, or have you said?
We have more to say?
I've said enough. That's okay.
Okay, unless you want to go first,
No.
I'll go. I mean, I've sort of changed my mind on this a few times back and forth, in full disclosure. The problem for me isn't that I think both sides' arguments are all that strong. The problem for me is I guess I actually find weakness on both sides of the argument. I spoke to the police chief just today. He said over the last 3 years, there have been 12 traffic incidents in that vicinity. All of them were between the hours of 6 a.m. and 8 p.m., so all during the time that we wouldn't allow right on red anyway. He also said that, they put traffic details, radar details there all the time, and they actually find they have a lower than average rate of violations on that section of Valley Street than they do compared to their radar details in other places in town. That being said, I think the biggest problems we're trying to solve with this in terms of cars backing up and creating a bottleneck there on Baker, and then, further creating a bottleneck onto Valley as those cars try to turn and there's a light right there. I think those problems are also between 6 a.m. and 8 p.m. So I'm not sure that this solution really solves that much of a problem. I think part of the problem here, particularly for people walking to and from Tuscan School, is that there's a stretch there along Valley that doesn't have a sidewalk. So people are forced to cross Valley, either, if they shouldn't have to do it at all to get their destination, they're forced to cross it twice, and in some cases they may be forced to cross it more than twice if they're walking further down on Valley as they go towards Memorial Park. So at the end of the day, I guess I find not necessarily a strong reason to vote against this, but also not a very strong reason to vote for it. And I'll break the tie with voting that we keep things the way they are. So I'm gonna vote no on this.
I'm also voting no because I think the new information we got from the county speaks to what you said. We should wait to see what happens. Part of our plan there is reconfigure the south side of that intersection, southwest side of that intersection, and pull the curb out a little bit, which will shorten the distance of crossing, which is something we've been doing. So There were a few other people who contacted us besides the folks on the Crescent over the last year that we've had this conversation. So I think in the interest of waiting to see what happens, I'm going to be voting no just to not make any changes.
And Mr. Mayor, I would add to my remarks that I wouldn't be opposed to at some point bringing this back. So whether or not I'm voting yes to table or just voting no today without prejudice to considering it after we see where those other changes might go, I'm not foreclosing the possibility of voting for it in the future.
Okay. Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams? Yes. Mrs. Larrier?
No.
Mr. Lembrick?
No.
Mr. McGehee?
No.
Mayor DeLuca?
No.
Ordinance fails.
Okay, we have another ordinance on final.
Mayor, we're at item number 14, ordinance number 2849-17. It's an ordinance to amend Chapter 209 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Rental Properties. This ordinance will define family and senior citizens as used within the provisions of the rental registration requirements and will specifically set forth penalties for violations.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. Is there anyone who wants to speak on this ordinance dealing with the rental registration process? Seeing no one, I'll ask Ms. Larry to move it.
Yes, Mayor, I move this ordinance, excuse me, be adopted as a whole, and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
Second.
Any comments? Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGehee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you. We have an ordinance on introduction.
Mayor, item 15, ordinance number 2850-17. It's an ordinance to regulate temporary trailers within the Township of Maplewood. This ordinance will regulate temporary trailers within the Township of Maplewood.
Can we get a motion, Ms. Larrier?
Yes, I move the passage of this ordinance on its first reading, its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, and a hearing to be held on April 5th? Fourth.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGehee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. Another introduction.
Item 16, Mayor, ordinance number 2851-17, an ordinance to amend Chapter 123 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Fees Municipal Pool. This ordinance will eliminate the college student category and add a weekend-only Saturday and Sunday category.
Can we get a motion, Mr. McGehee?
Sure. I move this passage of this ordinance on first reading, its publications, according to the law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, and a hearing to be held on April 4th.
Second, however, I have a question for Mr. Desiderio.
Okay.
Mr. Desiderio, could you explain why we're doing this by ordinance as opposed to by resolution? And just so you know, the driving reason for my question is that it was the understanding of both the pool advisory committee when they recommended this, as well as I think the township committee when we were discussing this last time, that at least the weekend only category would be done on a one-year pilot basis for this year. And obviously, a resolution makes it sort of easier for that to sunset as opposed to having to go back and re-amend an ordinance. So if you could just explain why we have to do it this way.
Well, your conclusion is correct. It would be easier to do it if it were a resolution. This body functions in two ways. It functions as an administrative capacity and its legislative capacity. Fees are generally considered to be in its legislative capacity, so that except in an emergent situation, because of the nature of passing an ordinance over a period of multiple weeks in publication, you generally have to pass anything that involves fees on an ordinance basis. So that's why this is done. We have in the past been told by our auditors that we need to do this in an ordinance manner as well. While it may be more cumbersome to modify it subsequently, yet the nature of what you do as elected officials and in this form of government suggests that this is the way that we have to do it. Hopefully that explains it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Desiderio.
Okay, so it's been moved in second. Anybody want to say anything about it? We talked
I
about this.
would just like to just reiterate that, it was the pool committee's understanding, I think also this committee's understanding that we'd be doing this on a trial basis. So I would just say that while I plan to vote for this both tonight and I would expect in 2 weeks on final, that should this sort of trial program of a weekend-only membership category be unsuccessful this year, I'll be the first person to move next year to amend the ordinance to remove the category.
I was just going to add that I know that the rec department is ready to move forward with the fees and look forward to this passing.
Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams? Yes. Mr. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
No. We have another ordinance on introduction.
Mr. Mayor, item number 17, ordinance on introduction, 2852-17. It's an ordinance amending an ordinance establishing and defining user charges in connection with the collection and treatment of wastewater, sanitary sewer. This ordinance will confirm the annual dwelling unit rate for sanitary sewer charges at $184 and will impose a $10 deferred maintenance charge in 2017 for a total of $194.
Move the passage of this ordinance on first reading, its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, and the hearing to be held on April 4th, 2017.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. Item number 18.
Mr. Mayor, item 18, ordinance number 2853-17 is an ordinance establishing parking regulations for Maplewood Township parking lot number 11. This ordinance will establish parking regulations for Maplewood parking lot number 11 located on Springfield Avenue.
Ms. Adams, can we get a motion?
Mayor, I move the passage of this ordinance on first reading, its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, and a hearing to be held on
April 4th.
April 4th. Sorry.
Second. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. Another ordinance on introduction.
Item 19, Mayor, ordinance number 2854-17, an ordinance limiting use of gas-powered leaf blowers within the Township of Maplewood. This ordinance will regulate the use of gas-powered leaf blowers within the Township of Maplewood.
Ms. Adams?
Mayor, I move the passage of this ordinance on first reading, its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, and a hearing to be held on April 4th.
Second.
Any discussion about this?
I do have a couple of clarifying questions for Mr. Desiderio under number 4. I'm just, maybe it's just me, so I'm looking to you to tell me if this is clarified enough on number 4. The use of gas-powered leaf blowers by any person or entity is permitted only as follows, gives the hours and days. Commercial entities are not permitted to use gas-powered leaf blowers on Sundays. Residents of the township may use gas-powered leaf blowers on Sundays between 11 a.m. and 5 p.m. Should we add in there on their own property of residence, or is that not valid?
Well, if you do, you got to amend it. It's going to put it off for another 2 weeks.
I'm just asking if it's clear enough.
I mean, I thought it was,
It's clear enough. then.
No, it's a legitimate point. I mean, could a resident use it on somebody else's? I mean, what we tried to do by was doing that, we amended the commercial entity aspect to include anyone who's charging a fee for service, and I thought we covered it by doing that.
Okay.
But suppose I wanted to do my neighbor who happens to be a senior and I wanted to do it and I'm not getting paid for
Then
it.
there's no prohibition.
If that person's giving me $50, then it falls, I'm
Then
not
it's
allowed to
permissible.
use it because it's commercial.
Correct.
Yeah,
And
then
that's
then
what
you
we-
should also be registering with the township with the stakes and landscape.
And paying another $50. Okay, okay. That's all. That was my only question.
Anything else?
I would suggest you use a rake when you do your neighbor's yard.
I suggest.
I suggest my neighbor come and do my yard. Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Lambert?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. Another ordinance on introduction.
Yes, Mayor. Item 20, ordinance number 2855-17, an ordinance to amend the regulations on lawn maintenance businesses. This ordinance will amend certain provisions of the regulations regarding lawn maintenance businesses.
Mayor, I move the passage of this ordinance on first reading, its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, and hearing to be held on April 4th.
Second.
Mr. Desidero, can you say why you had
Yeah,
you
this one-
amended this one?
This one is a bit of a house cleaning ordinance. The ordinance was on the books that talked about the 65 decibel use of leaf blowers to go back 7, 8, 10 years, whatever it was. So in order to avoid any confusion in light of the new ordinance, we want to change this ordinance. We've kept the registration provisions, but remove the provisions of the ordinance regarding leaf blowers, referring to the other ordinance, which is 2854-17. I want to just, because Mr. Lundberg actually brought it up about the fees, there was a discussion, and it's in the minutes, that the governing body wanted to do this by resolution. However, given that ordinance, which I think will always supersede a resolution, since that was still on the books, I felt that it was imperative that we do it by ordinance as opposed to doing it by resolution, so there would be no confusion as to what the law of the township would be. So that's why it's an ordinance as opposed. I wasn't just violating your instructions.
Well, we had a conversation about it.
Yes, we did.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier? Yes. Mr. Lambert?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, item number 21, new ordinance.
Mayor, item 21, ordinance number 2856-17, an ordinance adopting and amending redevelopment plan for designated redevelopment area 2. This ordinance will further amend and supplement the redevelopment plan for redevelopment area 2.
I move this ordinance on first reading, its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, and a hearing to be held on April 4th, 2017.
Mayor, April 18th.
April 18th, I'm sorry. April 18th. Mr. Desiderio, this has to go to the planning board now?
That is correct.
Okay, so if we pass this tonight, do we do a resolution, or it just happens, it just goes there?
You can do it by motion.
Okay.
Okay, and I've already alerted the secretary of the planning board that it will be coming to her, so she's prepared to forward it on to members of the planning board.
So just for the public, what we're doing is changing the redevelopment area number 2, which is an area between Boyden Avenue and Burnett Avenue. This part of redevelopment area 2 is commonly called the Maplewood Building Specialty Area. It's about 2.5 acres. The developer we've been negotiating with is proposing to build affordable assisted living. So this would permit assisted living residents there, and also adult daycare and medical offices related to that service. So that's what's being proposed here, and that's what this amendment will be.
And just so there's no confusion, Mayor, after it goes to the planning board, it comes back to the governing body for a final determination, as you'll determine whether to pass it or not to pass it.
On April 18th.
They're just an advisory body with regard to it.
Okay? Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Lambert?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. And the item number 22, another introduction.
Mayor, ordinance number 2857-17, bond ordinance providing for various capital improvements in the Township of Maplewood in the County of Essex, New Jersey, appropriating the aggregate amount of $3,914,328 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $3,350,410 in bonds or notes of the Township to finance the cost thereof.
I move the passage of this ordinance on first reading, its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, and the hearing to be held on April 4th, 2017.
Second.
This is our bond ordinance for the year. I went over it last meeting, but this includes purchases we will be making, software purchases, hardware purchases as far as the IT, police cameras, it's a whole slew of things. So this is our annual bond ordinance. So it's been moved and second. Any other comments? Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you. We have our final ordinance on introduction.
Mayor, it's item 23, ordinance number 2858-17. Exceed municipal budget appropriation limits and establish a cap bank pursuant to NJSA 484-45.14.
Move the passage of this ordinance on first reading, its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, and the hearing to be held on April 4th, 2017.
Second.
Mr. Manning, would you explain why we do this every year?
Because if in the future we are unable to plug or sustain our budget with revenues that we can legitimately go to the public for, we can fall back on things that are allowed for us to go outside of the cap, but we never do. So we just bank them, and it just kind of protects our position for the future. So it's prophylactic rather than...
Okay, anybody have any questions for Mr. Manning?
Right. Huh?
Yes.
No questions, Mr. Mayor, but just a statement. Being my first year on the Finance Committee and seeing the inner workings, I'd like to commend the committee for the work to do what we need to do in order to be financially solvent, yet protect ourselves in the future. So this is a wonderful thing to pass tonight.
Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Larrier? Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you.
Thank
Okay, we're done with the ordinance. We're going to move to discussion items. Mr. McGee, you're the first one.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to discuss the potential price changing or the fee changing for the Woodland and Berghoff. We have had several discussions about this now with other committees. The Recreation and Human Resources Committee met yesterday evening and discussed some of the concerns of some of our residents and some of our members of the Arts Council. What we're going to do is we're actually going to go back and revisit the fees because there is some concern regarding the fees for residents and non-residents, and then layered on top of that, for-profit and non-profit organizations, and then even a third layer, which would be private and public events. So from a macro perspective, the fees, we talked about this at the last meeting, are not so incrementally high that I think they're egregious, but at the same time, understanding the cash flow statement of some of our organizations here in Maplewood and considering what they invest in terms of being profitable for their events, we are going to consider that and work with constituents here to see if we can come to some type of agreement.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Second discussion item, community experiences and perceptions regarding police and race-related issues. Ms. Adams.
Yes, Mayor, I asked for this issue to be put on the agenda because I'm concerned about some things that have been happening in our community. I know my colleagues on the Township Committee are equally concerned. All of us deeply value and are dedicated to sustaining diversity and being inclusive in Maplewood. We all believe that our diversity, race, ethnicity, sexuality, and religion, and our delight in it is what makes Maplewood the great town that it is. It's why we live here. It's why we grow concerned when we see and hear things that are not acceptable to us. I want to assure the public that this is how I feel, and while I don't want to speak for my colleagues on the governing body, I believe it's how all of them feel as well. There have been incidents between police and the public about which we can legally not comment, but that does not mean we are not thinking about them or concerned about them. There have been school projects on slavery insensitively assigned in our schools, and graffiti in bathrooms, about which we also have no control over, other than state our concerns and ask the Board of Education and the administration to address these events. There have been incidents of graffiti and destruction of property that are deeply disturbing. I wanted to bring this up because even though there are reasons that we cannot speak about them publicly, our silence is deafening. The public needs to hear from us as the governing body. So here's what I'd like to see happen. I believe we need to start with a conversation in our towns. I believe this needs to be led by the Community Coalition on Race, and I am calling on the CCR to please step up and take this on. We need to understand what's happening and address it and talk about it. We need to do that because that's what we do here in South Orange and Maplewood. We don't shy away from uncomfortable issues. We talk and we listen and we work to make things better. But the governing bodies of the towns and the school district cannot lead on this largely because of legal issues and relationships. So we need for the Community Coalition to take this on and to lead the way. I mentioned this at the budget hearings in February when the coalition was before us asking for funding. The answer I got from the CCR supports protests that have taken place and initiatives of other citizens and organizations, but to me that's not enough. I strongly believe the Community Coalition on Race is the perfect organization to lead the way through this difficult time before it gets far more difficult. So as far as Maplewood's issues regarding the police, I asked Mr. Lembrick to update us as the chair of the Public Safety Committee on issues with regard to Maplewood and our police department.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor Adams. This is something that's been discussed on more than one occasion in the Public Safety Committee. And, you know, I'd like to reiterate here that our police department is under a legal obligation to follow and does comply with the 2005 New Jersey Attorney General Directive with respect to profiling. I'd also like to point out that all of our officers on the Maplewood Police Department, from the chief down to all the patrolmen and patrolwomen and everyone in between, are undergoing this year mandatory training on racial bias, which includes implicit bias, de-escalating violent encounters, and the use of force. And that's something that was mandated by the state. Before the state passed that mandate, the Public Safety Committee, in working with the Maplewood Police Department, was actually exploring, along with some other local communities, putting together our own training or hiring a consultant to bring in and provide training to our department and several other departments in this region. Then the state mandated, the Attorney General mandated this training for all police departments and other law enforcement agencies statewide. So they're going through that. I know when we spoke to the chief just a few weeks ago, he said that he had been through the training, that it was very thorough, and that other officers, including some of the captains and lieutenants, were going to be undergoing the training soon, and that training has to be completed this year. And I think that, as you mentioned, some of the specific incidents we can't talk about here, but I will just to reiterate Deputy Mayor Adams' point, just because we're not talking about it here in this public setting because we're not permitted to, I'd like to assure the public that your elected officials here on this Township Committee are taking these issues very seriously and are doing what we can to address them, and certainly at the time when it's appropriate and legally permissible for us to discuss those issues publicly and take any public action, that we are committed to doing so.
And just one other thing with the chief, he did write the article that's going to be in the Maplewood leaflet. It's an article about the clear training, which is required by the Attorney General, and describes his experiences there. So this is one of the things we're trying to roll out to get the public aware. I received an email late Friday inviting me to a meeting yesterday, Monday, that Superintendent Ramos had. I had not heard of this before. It's a strategic leadership team, and it was a commitment to equity meeting. It was at Jefferson School. There were, I don't know, 40 of us there maybe. Clergy members, members of the community, CCR was there, parents. They talked a lot about the incident that occurred at South Mountain and at Jefferson regarding the curriculum related to colonial times and slavery, and talked much broader. I would say that CCR did play an active role in that meeting. Coincidentally, I'm running into Mr. Marchman, who's the chair of the CCR at that meeting, and I had been in conversation with him recently after there was another incident in town. We talked about meeting with the chief, and then as I left that meeting, I got a call from the chief saying that there was a meeting that afternoon between the chief and Mr. Marchman that I wanted to sit in. So I did sit in, and essentially there was a discussion about how the CCR could help the police. So they want to be very proactive. We talked about communication. They want to help do more than coffee with a cop. That's fine, but they want to try to do more. We talked about different things that they might be able to do to work with getting the police department more involved and interacting with the community. We also talked about training. And Mr. Lembeck, you're right. You know, when we did, before the clear requirement came out from the Attorney General, we did look at a couple of different training programs. One was Right Academy, another was Fair and Impartial Policing. Mr. Marchman knows someone from Fair and Impartial Policing and was going to reach out to that person. We're going to set up a meeting with, I believe, between that person and the chief and Mr. Marchman to talk about some police sensitivity training. There was a feeling, I think, from the CCR that there needed to be maybe, in addition to the clear training, some additional training from an outside third party. So I think that's something that's going to come back to us, and I think that's probably a good idea, is to have an independent person who everyone can buy into. So, and then we talked about youth, trying to figure out how we could get more interaction between youth, young people and the police. Talked about the hub, YouthNet, and CCR. And then the CCR, we also talked about, CCR does these jitney tours for new residents. We talked about doing jitney tours with the CCR, with new police, and actually even existing police, to just give them another view from the community of what the community means to folks. So sort of a citizen view. So that's something so those conversations are going to have. I would say that Mr. Marchman, both at the meeting at Jefferson and at the meeting at the police station, did express his desire to take more of a lead, get the CCR more involved. So I think what you had asked him to do, Deputy Mayor Adams, at the budget meeting is I think they're going to be doing more of that. So, and I'll be going to, the superintendent's called another meeting Monday, and I'll be going there. And, I think we also have our meetings with the school board on every other month basis, and we can bring these items up and try to have some more conversation and keep the ball rolling. So,
Mr. Mayor, if I may make a few comments. First, I'd like to thank Deputy Mayor Adams for bringing this to the public. It's been deeply troubling to watch the recent events that have been occurring. First, public incidents in our parks, obviously police-related incidents, which we've already discussed, and also most recently a rash of school incidents both at the middle school and now at the lower school. As a parent, first and foremost, I've been deeply troubled by what's occurred, and have had conversations within my home about it, because these are things that, in my personal opinion, do not define what the character of Maplewood is. And it's far from it. And so I know that we as a community, at all levels can do better, and I'm happy to hear that we are striving to do better, especially on the law enforcement front. I look forward to seeing the results of what the school board and the superintendent can do to solidify and strengthen and enhance our community based off the recent events. In terms of what's happened in the last couple of months, this has been kind of a bittersweet situation because as we move forward as being a sanctuary city, yet within our own community, we're having issues. So we take 2 steps forward and by default 2 steps back. So I think it is time for the CCR and all organizations to step forward and really solidify what we think and we know what Maplewood is and should be. In regards to our youth in our town, from police perspective, they are our most important asset. And I'd like to, commend the principal of Maplewood Middle School and some of our auxiliary police officers who have stepped up to start a program called Maplewood Mentors. They've identified about 8 to 10 students, and with the consent of their parents, we'll be starting a mentoring program. We'll be linking one of these identified Maplewood Middle students with an auxiliary police officer on the Maplewood Police Force. That's all I can say about this program right now, but I really want to thank you, Deputy Mayor, for bringing this up. It's been something that, people ask us about all the time on the train, in the village, on Maplewood Avenue, anywhere you're at, and, I've kept a tight tongue, but we can do better as a community. So I would say to all the parents out there, I would talk to your kids about what's happening. Let them know, what it means to be a person, what it means to be a Maplewoodian. And thank you.
Okay. So, at one point, we might want to have somebody from the board, like Dr. Ramos, come and just kind of talk to us here, too. So that might be something. As I think he's under a lot of stress at the moment, so maybe we can, schedule that time to come in, but maybe he could also give us, sort of as he sorts this out, sort of the lay of the land as he sees it and how he's intervening in the school side.
So I would just like to circle back to wanting, at least a chain of communication or keeping us all in the loop as to what, I know Mr. Marchman, as chair of the CCR, is taking a more proactive approach, and I think it couldn't come at a better time, but I think we just all need to be kept in the loop as to what's happening. Meetings such as you had, Mayor, and just all of us kind of hearing what those conversations are, and maybe those need to be taken to a larger level of forums that we, maybe the CCR could start to think about organizing.
Yeah, I agree. I'd love to be part of those conversations in the future as well. I think all of us as a body should be.
The school is going to have a town hall meeting. I'm not sure. We're going to find out Monday some more of their thinking about it, but see what they have to say. And then I'll let you know. Okay?
Yep.
On the consent agenda, can you get a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask that we move item number 2, Resolution 50-17 off the consent agenda for a separate vote.
Okay.
Number 2 on the consent agenda, Resolution 50-17.
You want to move 1, 3 through 13?
Yes, I would like to move items number 1 and 3 through 13 on the consent agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGehee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. Mr. Lembrick, you want to move 50-17?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would like to move Resolution 50-17, a resolution confirming the policy limiting Maplewood resident committee membership.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion about it?
I would just like to clarify and maybe remind anyone who may be watching that this resolution is confirming a policy that the Township Committee has tried to conform with for at least as long as I've been here, and that is, given the large number of residents who are volunteering, we're very fortunate to have a lot of residents who want to be involved in government and in boards and committees as volunteers. And given that we have more residents who want to be involved than we have committee positions, we limit residents to serving on one volunteer board or committee that's appointed by the Township Committee at any one time. And as we have residents that sometimes move from one committee to another, they don't want to leave the committee they were on, but for better or worse, they have to make the decision of which one to join and which one to leave. And because of some confusion about that policy, it was sort of an informal standing policy in the Township Committee. We have asked Mr. Desiderio to draft this resolution, and I firmly support it and was glad to move it, and will be glad to vote yes tonight.
Any other comments? Please call the roll.
Mr. Adams?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes. Moved and seconded.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. Is there any action that we need to take about any appointee that might be? Mrs. Whitson, did we get any information from that one person who might be?
No, one person apparently was going to wait and see what happened tonight.
Okay, so we can deal with it at the next meeting.
But we've been in touch with that one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Public comment. Anyone want to address the Township Committee? Okay, seeing no one. Administrative reports. Mr. Manning.
No report, Mayor. Any questions?
On that report? Or can it be on the?
No, on any topic.
Mr. Manning.
I hadn't have gotten your cold, that's why I was a little bit out of commission. Thank you for spreading that around.
When is the first farmer's market, and can you give us any updates?
It's in a different parking lot.
June 5th.
June 5th.
Yes,
And
to the 7th.
do you have anyone new who signed up? Not yet?
Not yet. We're working on that. We're working on the new location, more east on Springfield Avenue. We think it's going to be a better location and better parking, et cetera, and more space. Thank you for asking.
Thank you.
Desiderio.
I have no report, Mayor.
You do?
I do?
You do. A while back, you gave us a memo regarding the permission Verizon is seeking to access utility poles in public rights-of-way.
Yes.
So the Engineering, Public Works, and Planning Committee discussed this. And we recognize that there are limitations, but we were concerned about the new poles that would be allowed here, and whether or not we would have any ability to control that, even as far as going for a site plan, if they want to put new poles in the right of way. Also, making sure there's reference here to making the poles consistent with other poles, but sometimes these poles tend to be higher. And so we want to make sure that we have some ability to control that.
So do we?
Do we? Well, yeah, I think it's a point of negotiation.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as opposed to other vendors, I don't think Verizon's trying to force anything down anybody's throat. We haven't done anything because although you and I did have a discussion about it, I've never seen a memo or anything come out of engineering with regard to other questions that I've.
Well, these are the questions we had. What I'm conveying to you now.
I'm sorry, you're coming back to me with questions.
No, I'm coming back to you with our review. And so we raised these questions that we're concerned, that we clearly understand that they have a right to put these there in the right of way.
Well, okay, we can argue that, I guess.
Okay, well, maybe they don't.
But okay, but I mean, I think that, one of the things that I think that has to be done is I think there has to be a series of prerequisites for them doing that. amongst them the structural integrity of the poles, the permission of the prior, the owner of the pole, the engineer to make certain determinations, which I think I outlined in my original memo, which I thought were issues, okay? And I don't know if engineering has done any of those things. Or I don't even know if engineering has gone out and looked at what their request is. So what I would like to...
I don't understand. What would engineering have to do?
Well, an engineer would have to go out and make sure in terms of the viability of what they want to do. I don't know, we're going to just trust Verizon to say that what they do is acceptable?
Our engineer's not going to do that.
Well, but our engineer has to make I'm not an engineer, so I can't I can't make recommendations. I'm suggesting to you that would like recommendations from the engineering department as to the specifics. I have no problem going back to Verizon and engaging in a dialogue with them, but I'd like to be educated myself as to what our concerns are about the structural integrity of the vehicles upon which these things are going to be located. I mean, you look at some poles now, some poles you'll see are actually bent.
Right.
Some poles to me, seem to be overburdened with equipment.
Correct.
And I simply need someone to say, now, if the engineer comes back and says, I would like them to submit to us a report from a structural engineer or whatever, then that's something I can go back to them and say, our engineering department has recommended this.
I don't think our engineer is interested or capable of assessing any pole that they identify that they want to put this on.
But that doesn't.
So we need to get a third-party engineer. Either Verizon pays us to hire an engineer, or we have to have some kind of engineer. So yes, that's a valid concern. But there's also concerns about, they have the right under this to put new poles up.
Right, that was it.
They can put poles within their right-of-way, that is correct.
So do we want to space the poles? These are things that, we don't have a plan from, they essentially want carte blanche to just put these poles up.
Okay, and I'm, although it sounds very much like I'm arguing with you, I am not. So, Joseph, don't argue with the mayor. The issue becomes, okay, so we don't want the poles too close. Who makes that determination, and what is Mr. Manning, I think, wants to interrupt.
I think that Mr. Desiderio and myself and the engineer should have a conversation.
That's fine, yeah.
Yeah, because it's almost impossible to try to regulate something when it's just, there's no plan in front of us to
As to where they want to put them.
Right, they need to come back and say, we're going to put 50 of these in your town.
These locations.
And they're going to be on every block, or they're going to be on one block. So it's very hard for us, we had a hard time responding other than this broad thing.
Okay.
So if they want to come back and say, here's what we're thinking. We're thinking of putting 50 of these things up. We've identified different streets, and we have identified existing poles, and we need how many new poles. Then I think we can go back and have a better conversation.
Understood.
Yeah, because that's why, what I asked at the meeting was, we get cell tower applications all the time before planning board. They're the most boring applications ever. But we have to sit through them and get everything on the record. But then it feels like they can just come in and put anything anywhere just because they're not attaching it to the building. And it just was counterintuitive as to why that's okay.
Anything else from Mr. Desiderio? Okay, Ms. Fritzen.
I have one item, Mayor. Just to report to the Township Committee that we had an inactive liquor licensee who ran under the trade name of the Liquor Cabinet, and it was up on Springfield Avenue, and they have not operated for at least 2 years. They successfully obtained a special ruling from the state that they could reactivate the license enough where they can transfer it to a potential purchaser, which they have. And they did pay the Township of Maplewood 2 years of back fees, $19.38 per year that they owed the township for not utilizing the license, which would be a requirement for the ruling to reactivate the license. They also paid the state 2 years of fees, which is $200 each. And again, I wanted to let you know that I would anticipate shortly transfer paperwork.
Is that a distribution license or consumption?
It's a plenary retail distribution license. It's a liquor store, and they have a potential buyer who's interested in placing that license also on Springfield Avenue. So I'll just keep you updated.
Okay. Do we have
Thank you.
any,
Anything from Ms. Fritzen?
anything on the other ABC, the appeal?
Nothing.
We don't know anything.
The one across the street or near the library,
Yeah.
that hearing is the crazy thing is, frankly, it's been extended 3 or 4 times by I guess he's the acting director of the ABC, who's supposed to make the decision. So he has 45-day period runs, and then we get a letter asking for an extension. Frankly, from our position, they could extend it however they want because he doesn't have the application approval. But I have to say, from an applicant standpoint, I think it's grossly unfair. I mean, they should decide it one way or another, but it's in limbo. So that's where it's at.
Can that applicant can they just go somewhere else and try to
Well,
establish
that's my
that, or is
point.
it
No,
stuck?
he would have an appeal from a decision.
Right.
But, it's like the worst thing a judge can do is not decide a case because that just keeps you in limbo. So if he were to decide it one way or another, then there's an appeal to the court. But the way he's doing it now, it's just,
But they could drop their appeal and find another building.
they could.
Application for a place to place.
They could withdraw it at any time, absolutely.
And then Highland Place, we haven't heard anything from Highland Place about their appeal.
When are these licenses up for
June.
for June, right? Yeah, okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
I have one more question for Ms.
Go ahead.
Fritzen. Could you tell us when is the voter registration deadline for the primary this year?
Sorry, Mr. Lembrick, I do not have that information with me,
Okay.
but I can certainly get back to you with that.
50 days.
Okay.
55 days or 50 days?
55.
55, so it's like May, second week in May.
I'll get the information,
If it's 55, if it's 55 days, then it's like mid-April. It's,
Or is that to change maybe that's the change. You'll have to get the
I
date.
don't have that information with me tonight. I'll
okay,
get the information certainly to the Township Committee tomorrow.
okay. Thank you, Ms. Fritzen.
But I could tell you that the date for filing is April 3rd, Monday, April
4
3rd.
PM,
Before 4 p.m.
before 4, 3:59. Be
Don't
there
don't make
or-
it that close. Be in the primary.
or don't be in the primary. Okay, reports from elected officials. Mr. Lembrick.
Mr. Mayor, I have no report.
Ms. Adams.
Dramatic, the way you said that. Well, I was going to bring up from engineering the cell poles, but we already discussed that. I wanted to let the public know that the soundproofing panels for acoustical shields that are being installed at the Woodland on the existing doors facing the parking lot were supposed to arrive. They had to be custom made. They're supposed to arrive on March 20th. And as soon as they arrive, Public Works will be installing them. The Jitney routes, our Public Works Director is doing some test reports. The Jitney routes, we have, our Public Works Director will be testing a couple of Jitney routes or changes to existing routes to include areas of town, specifically near Milburn Avenue and Valley Street, that are underserved right now, and seeing if we can loop residents over there. And we'll obviously publicize that if that changes. And also regarding the leaf blowers, Public Works has assured me that the Township of Maplewood will also not be using gas-powered leaf blowers during the upcoming ban, and has told any outsourced lawn maintenance or lawn mowing companies that's part of their contract that they have to follow these ordinances. That's my report, Mayor.
Thank you. Mrs. Larrier?
One item, Mr. Mayor, the Code Committee met and we looked at the ordinance governing the signs used by realtors. Currently, those signs are only allowed one rider. Hanging bad on the bottom or a bad on the top?
Riders.
Riders, okay. And we are suggesting that we change that to 2 riders in light of some of the stuff that has to, by law, be on the sign. By law, they have to have the name of the realtor, the phone number. There's some things that have to be on the main sign that preclude things like cell phone numbers from being included. So now, and a lot of the signs already have 2 riders on them against the law. So we would like to suggest that they be allowed to have 2 riders. And so I guess we just really need to and that ordinance, Mr. Desiderio?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it
That would
reads,
be code 27150L2, I believe.
yeah, it's, right now it reads, in addition, one sign rider no more than 6 inches in height may be added. And what we talked about is, in addition, up to 2 sign riders, each of which shall be no more than 6 inches in height, may be added. So you can have this.
I would also point out that some of the
If we have agreement.
interesting riders that we see, the wording is, they're limited in their writing. Do we have to add that they're allowed to put their cell phone numbers on there?
No.
Okay. But coming soonish are still not allowed. Heard from our code inspectors that they will be going around, and you'll see, go around town, there's plenty of coming soons. Getting rid of the coming soons.
The only thing that's permitted is for sale, for rent, under contract,
That's it.
and open house.
Right.
And soonish isn't even permitted under rules of English grammar.
I know, but I saw one on Ridgewood Terrace.
But I heard soonage it is going to be allowed.
Okay.
So, so the recommendation from the code committee is to,
Allow 2 riders. Rewrite the ordinance to amend the ordinance to allow 2 riders, either one on top and one on the bottom, or 2 on the bottom. I think it's kind of physically impossible to put 2 on top.
is that agreeable with the township committee?
Right?
Yes.
I don't care.
Okay.
Sure.
You have yes, the next meeting, okay? Mr. McGee?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just a few items. YouthNet is having 2 events coming up this month. One is they're having a event at the Woodland at 7 p.m. on March 31st regarding a sanctuary community. So it's a forum, and then afterwards there's a social for teenagers, which is a DJ and so forth at the Woodland. Also, on the 26th, Sunday the 26th, in collaboration with the rec department, they're hosting a bingo YouthNet event over at the Hart. What else? The Green Team met, and they are interested in getting more participants for the Climate March, which is on April 29th in DC. So if you're interested, go to the maplewoodisgreen.org website. And the rent party is this Friday, Our Lady of Sorrows. Again, a wonderful organization which helps to subsidize our youth in terms of nourishment here in our town. And my office hours will be at the Bagel Chateau this Saturday at 9:30 a.m., 9:30 a.m. until about 10:30. And then finally, 1-800-222-1222.
Very good.
Mr.
You get
McGee,
extra credit, sir.
is the Green Team organizing anybody going into New York or only to DC?
At the meeting, there was discussion that people will be going to New York as well, but they're in collaboration with some other organizations, and so they have a bus, and they're looking to get participants.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Just a few things. One, the Ideas Festival kicked off Saturday with a terrific program over at the Woodland, had over 200 people attend to hear Angie Thomas, and it was really great. And then that Sunday, she was on the front page of the New York Times, the story. So we were very hot. And the whole next couple of weeks, there are programs with the Ideas Festival. So please come out, go onto the library website and check that out. Want to also mention that St. Patrick's Day was the 20th anniversary of our jitney service. And we talked a bit about it in engineering, public works, and planning, and talked about having some kind of ceremony when the weather's a little better over at the train station to recognize the 20 years. And
Painted them all green.
Thank you, all green. Yeah. Vicki Arlene wrote a very nice article. It was in the News Record. And she singled out Mickey Stern, who was Township Committee member, who was an advocate and really got this started. I was on the first jitney 20 years ago, and remember that they all had, Bill Kowalski was the engineer, and they were all on there, and they gave us bagels for our first ride and stuff, so it was kind of fun. But we've taken a lot of people to the train in 20 years, and that thing has grown. So we just want to recognize them as the 20 years.
Not just that, Mayor, but Maplewood was the first community to set up the jitney program and spurred the whole grant program that New Jersey Transit did with free jitney buses. And so, yeah, a lot of us were.
We got money from a group called ICLEI to help us get this going. So it was it was a whole different operation. Our buses were not the big buses we have right now. We have to really buy the bigger buses. Nice. So. And then I just want to mention, Sunday I was invited to Morrow Church, where they rededicated the sanctuary. They did some new lighting and painting, and it's really beautiful there. And it was nice. They of course, they did the rededication at this church service, but also they asked me to come they wanted people to know that it's a community space. And that the church is not just a place where religious service, but there's also community service, and it's a welcoming area. And in fact, there's going to be a couple of programs there, and then over the next couple of weeks, where the public is going to get there for discussion, action, and stuff. So it's really beautiful if you get a chance to go up and take a look at it. So
I remember during the aftermath of the Superstorm Sandy, they opened their doors and they helped a lot of people, even if give them a warm place to go during the day. And they were very active, and they were there long hours.
Right, they were cooking for people, and I had food there for stuff. Okay, can we get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll see you on April 4th.